So let's review how to multiply negative and positive numbers together. Okay, and I'm going to try to do this using dots, and I'm going to use those to represent the negative and positive numbers. So let's start with red. Let's say that I gave you the problem 15 times a negative 3. Okay, 15 times a negative 3. Okay, and when I'm signifying or trying to represent this, right, I'm going to use negative numbers as, or at least a negative unit as a red dot. So negative unit or one negative unit. And I'm going to use green for a positive unit. Okay, positive unit. All right. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. This 15 here, which is a positive unit, and I'm going to write out 15 3 times. Okay, so I'm going to write out that 15 3 times. For now, just going to use the absolute value of negative 3. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so I took that 15, and that's one, right? So that's one set. And this is two sets. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's two sets of 15. And then we have three sets of 15. 1, 2. Okay. So that's three sets of 15, right? So this is set 1, set 2, set 3, right? And if you counted all of those up, right, if you do normal multiplication, you know that 15 times 3 is going to give you 45, right? But the issue is that I actually have this negative 3 to worry about, right? I have this negative that I haven't taken into consideration yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch all of these, okay, all of those 15 that I multiplied by to red dots, okay? So rather than a positive dot, I'm going to add this negative in there, and I'm going to switch those over, okay? So what I'm going to have now is I'm going to have these are all going to switch to regular negative dots like this. So that's one set of 15. That's two sets of 15, right? And you can also think about this as me taking that negative 3, right? That negative 3 and writing it out 15 times. Because we know that when we're multiplying, we're essentially just taking one of those numbers and adding itself that the second number of times. So in this case, in the green case, I took 15 and I multiplied it out or added it together by itself 3 times. And now I'm switching it because I have that negative, or I'm taking this negative 3, this one row right here, and I'm going to do that 15 times. Okay, so either way, that's what it looks like when you're multiplying, and this is the same thing as negative 45 because I could count up and I could see that there are 45 dots in there, and they all represent a negative. Okay, now let's assume that instead of multiplying, we're going to divide. So let's take our same problem and let's take 15 times, or not times, excuse me, divided by a negative 3. Okay, so rather than multiplying 15 by negative 3, I'm going to divide 15 by negative 3. Okay, so I'm starting out with this 15. I'm starting out with my set of 15, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's 15 positives. And remember, when we think of division, right, when we're thinking of division, division is actually a fancy way to say break up, right? So you're actually break apart or break up a set of numbers or a set of objects or something like that, right? So I'm going to break this 15 up into 3 pieces, okay? Break this thing up into 3 pieces. All right, so and you can see here I've got 3 rows, right? So I've got 1 piece is here, 2 pieces there, 3 pieces there. And if I'm breaking this guy up, right, I am left with just one of those rows. But again, just like in the first problem, I've got this negative here that I have to worry about. So I'm actually going to take all of those dots and I'm going to convert them. I'm going to switch colors on you and I'm going to convert them into a set of negative numbers. And we know that there are 5 negative dots in there. So we know that 15 divided by negative 3 is going to give us negative 5. Okay. Now, again, there's an easier way to do this. You don't have to keep drawing out 150 dots. That's really time consuming. There's a simple way to remember how to multiply and divide negative numbers and positive numbers for that matter. Okay. Now, just like with multiplication, so this works with both multiplication and division. All right. If the 2 values are the same sign, so that includes a positive. So if your input is either both positive, if both of the numbers are positive, or both the numbers are negative, if they're the same, okay, that means that you are going to have an output that is positive every time. Okay. If you have 2 different numbers, okay, then your answer is always going to be negative. All right, because again, if we had started with this negative, if we had made this positive 15 a negative 15, right, when we switched it over, we would have started as red and switched over to green, right? So you can see that we are always going to, if they're the same sign, it's going to end up positive. If it's a different sign, it's going to end up negative. So let's say that we do negative 24, right? Negative 24, and we want to divide that by negative 2. Okay. So the first thing you need to do is just worry about the absolute value. Don't worry about the signs right now. Just worry about the numbers. You know that 24 divided by 2 is the same thing as 12. Okay. You know that 12 fits into 24 twice. So that gives you your answer there. And we started with, now you're going to actually, talk about your signs, right? We started with 2 positive numbers. So our answer is going to be positive. Our signs are the same. Okay. Now, if you did, say, 14 divided by negative 7, right? We know that our signs are different. They're different. So my answer is going to end up as negative, okay? And I know that 14 divided by 7 gives me 2. So my answer is negative 2, okay? Now, let's say that we added in more numbers, right? Let's say instead of just 2 numbers, let's do 3 numbers. Let's say we did 32 divided by negative 4, right? And then we divided that by negative 1. Let's do that. Wonder what that would be. So go ahead and take a second and try to see if you can figure this out on your own. So assuming that you've done this, let's start with our 32 and our negative 4, okay? So again, thinking about the signs, if you want to, we can start that way. We know that we have 2 different signs, so our answer is going to be negative no matter what. And if we divide 32 by a 4, we get 8. So our answer, 32 divided by negative 4, gives us 8. Now when we divide by a negative 1, okay, we have 2 of the same sign, so our answer is going to be positive. And 8 divided by 1 is just 8. Okay? So again, If you have the same sign, your answer will turn out positive. If you have two different signs, your answer will turn out negative. You can also take this one step further. If you look at this, we started out with an even number of negatives. Okay, so this was an even number of negatives. This here was an odd or an even number, right? We had two negatives there. We had one negative here, and we had two negatives here, right? If you have an even number of negatives, your answer is going to turn out positive. If you have an odd number of negatives, your answer is going to turn out negative. Okay, so you can either count or you can use the chart here, and hopefully by with a little bit of practice, you will actually have this pattern memorized, and it's going to be really easy for you to multiply integers.